participants.
As you folks are joining, welcome. We're just going to take a minute or two to work up to critical mass. We were just commenting on how after 2 years of Zoom practice, everybody is getting really good at jumping right in on time. I see that we're up to about 40 folks. That's great. I'm just going to slowly, I think, get us going, respecting everybody's time. Welcome. My name's Tim Glidden. And Caroline, did you want to do any organizational intro?
Yes. Yep. Welcome, everyone. I'm Caroline Elliott, Executive Director of Cadence River Education Alliance. On behalf of CREA and our co-sponsor, Brunswick-Topsham Land Trust, I'd like to welcome you to the 4th session of our Taking Action on Climate series. This is the Do Something session. If you missed the first 3 sessions, you can access written highlights and recordings of those on CREA and BTLT's websites. And just a little note that I wanted to make. We know from feedback that we've received that people really want to know, what can I do about climate change and which actions will have the biggest impact? And the answer to that question is complicated, but on some levels it's simple. The answer is we should do everything that we can. And in this series, we're trying to give you a sampling of a range of options. But I'd like to highlight one interesting fact that we noticed as we were preparing this series. We did a pre-series survey, and in that survey, people were least interested in learning about federal actions to address climate and more interested in individual actions. And we just wanted to point out that according to all the experts, action at the federal level is really the most critical to addressing climate change. Because it's going to take changes in state and federal policy to create the kinds of reductions in greenhouse gases that are needed. So you'll hear a little bit more about that tonight and perhaps in following sessions as well. But we really wanted to emphasize the importance of taking action by contacting your representatives in Augusta and in Washington. It really does make a difference. So with that, I just want to say a quick thank you to the volunteers and to our presenters who have helped us create this series. We're particularly grateful to Tim Glidden, our series facilitator, for helping to guide us through these important issues. Tim is, for those of you who don't know Tim, he's newly retired from his role as president of Maine Coast Heritage Trust, and he has played a key leadership role in conservation in Maine for many years. So Tim, take it away.
Sure. I'm going to have to, I won't be able to use that newly retired line for too many more days or weeks. Welcome, everybody. Really happy to have you here with us tonight. And I'm really appreciative as well of the 4 folks, experts we have with us who are going to give us some interesting discussion stimulus tonight. And just a housekeeping point, we're going to go through the presentations first and then get to your questions and hopefully some answers. And as we do that, so I would just encourage you, when the question occurs to you, put it in the Q&A function. We're all Zoom savvy people now. Q&A is the most effective way to do that. It would be great if you didn't use chat for questions, just because it just gets to be too many things to keep track of. So that would be great. So tonight's session, as Caroline said, this is the 4th. And we've been covering a lot of ground, thinking about sources of new energy, sort of an overview of what the Climate Council has come up with for a plan for Maine. Talked about food and agriculture. Tonight, we're going to be looking at what we can do really in the efficiency side of things, both at the local and state level. There'll be a lot of things here that you can do yourself, either in your own home or getting engaged with your own community. I don't want to undercut Caroline's message of the importance of the federal action or the state action. Educate yourself by acting locally, but then communicate with your representatives. There's a line that I saw the other day, because this is such an overwhelming topic, that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And so there's lots of things for you to do. Don't feel like you have to do everything. So we're going to talk about some specific climate steps that we can take in our own living spaces and communities. We'll be hearing about some of the programs in more detail that we heard very briefly in the discussion of the climate, the Maine Won't Wait climate plan. But these are a lot of those steps are implemented through Efficiency Maine, and we're blessed this evening by having two folks from Efficiency Maine, Lily McVetti and Andy Mayer, who are going to be filling us in on those. They're going to tag team that a little bit. Lily will do the presentation, and they'll both do Q&A. Ashley is actually going to start us. Ashley Krulik is the Falmouth Sustainability Coordinator. I'll stumble over those multisyllabics. And she's going to give us insight into how really exciting things can happen right at the town level, which are opportunities for citizens to plug in right there. In fact, it really is a very citizen-driven operation. Sam is going to go second, and Sam Saltonstall is going to be telling us a little bit about some federal stuff, I suspect, but also Sam is somebody who has been working on energy efficiency in a whole range of areas. And Sam, I was really impressed to read about the 100 homes weatherized out on Peaks Island, the work that you've been doing with a school, and I think I'm reading here, forming a heat pump purchase group, which is sort of an interesting intersection with the Efficiency Maine programs that also are promoting heat pumps. He's also, Sam is currently the board president of Window Dressers, which does, if I can use the word bespoke, custom window fittings to improve energy efficiencies. And these are really nice operations, but very doable. I didn't really give Ashley her due. The Falmouth Sustainability Office is guiding the development of policies and practices that promote energy conservation, environmental stewardship, and community resilience. It's developing and reviewing its own climate action plan and is in the process of doing inventory work. Lily works for Efficiency Maine, and I also want to say that Lily was an extraordinary summer stewardship fellow or stewardship summer fellow at the Brunswick-Topsham Land Trust several years ago in 2019. So she gets around, and we're really pleased to have her on here. And Andy has been, I think he worked at the Public Utilities Commission before Efficiency Maine really sort of geared in. Efficiency Maine became independent somewhere along the line. Andy has been there for 13 years, so deeply experienced in that work. We also had a poll question, and Caroline or Lee, I don't know if you can pop it up, just to sort of get you engaged a little bit here. We wanted you to think about how often do you talk with family or friends about climate change? And you can see the range of possibilities there. And we'll share the results. Panelists, you cannot vote. You can share the results. We will share the results to you later on if somebody reminds me on that. I think that, so we'll leave that up for a little bit. I think that's the only poll question for now. We might have one a little bit later on. So I'm gonna launch us then starting with Ashley. who's going to talk to us about her work in Falmouth. And Ashley, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim, for the introduction. And thank you, Caroline, for inviting us to participate tonight. We're definitely excited to be a part of this group. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. How does this look for everybody?
Full screen.
Good.
Looks good.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, as Tim mentioned, I'll be speaking about what Falmouth has done on a municipal level regarding climate action. But as he said, it's all driven by our residents and by our citizens and people talking to our town councilors and staff. So while these are municipal actions, they're individual actions too, of people saying that this was important to them and something that they wanted Falmouth to do. So Falmouth is a fairly small town, or 12,000 people, but I'll say I worked in the Portland Sustainability Office prior to coming to Falmouth, and Falmouth doesn't act like a small town on a sustainability level. The actions that have already been taken and the length of time that the town's been working on these projects and the breadth of projects that they're working on, they're definitely take this very seriously, and it's something that they prioritize within the community. So starting off, climate change impacts, I'm sure everyone here is relatively familiar and has an interest, but the things that we are seeing and the reasons why we're acting are that we are seeing sea level rise. So this is a sea level rise projection for the next 100 years, showing that we need to prepare for 4 to 9 feet of sea level rise, which on top of that with storm surge and some newer projections, this is kind of what we're looking at in our future. We're also seeing changing ecological factors such as ocean acidification, vector-borne diseases that are coming further north, specifically tick-borne diseases that are impacting our communities. There's warmer, more variable temperatures. We're seeing much more higher heat days. An article in the Press Herald a couple of years ago showed that Maine is going to have a climate more similar to Montgomery, Alabama in 100 years. And that certainly is eye-opening and something that incentivizes us to take some individual actions to avoid that result. And then also increased precipitation and storm intensity are kind of the main impacts that we're planning for here in Falmouth. So as I said, Falmouth has been working in this space for a really long time. In 2007, they signed the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement and then started work on their own kind of first climate action plan, which they called the Green Ribbon Report. And this report outlined carbon emissions reduction goals, actions that the town should be taking to meet those goals. And we've been looking to that plan ever since. And we have a recycling and energy advisory committee that oversees the actions in that plan. And we're just always moving forward. In 2018, there was an updated plan for municipal and school department energy and sustainability use. So it just kind of developed some new goals and was a bit higher level, but just kind of a check-in on where we needed to be. And then we also saw in 2020 that not Falmouth, but from a regional perspective, Portland and South Portland published their One Climate Future plan. The Maine published the Maine Won't Wait plan. And so we saw action happening at the state and regional levels. And we felt like it was time for us to re-up our game and reset our goals. So just to briefly outline what our report said in 2010, the Green Ribbon Report had a 2% annual reduction for greenhouse gas emissions, a number of actions such as shifting to LED lighting and more efficient energy sources to reach those reduction goals and monitoring that progression. In 2018, the Municipal and School Department Energy Sustainability Plan we completed an updated greenhouse gas emissions inventory for municipal and school operations, and we developed additional strategies to reach those goals. So a lot has been accomplished, and there's a very long list of actions that we've taken at the municipal level, and we have all of those outlined actually on our sustainability page on the town website. But just a really broad overview of kind of the higher priority, bigger actions that we've taken. One was a conversion to LED streetlights, which saves about $75,000 annually in cost and reduces the energy use dramatically. Transition to LED interior lights in municipal buildings. We've been completing energy audits and upgrades in the various buildings in town, which some of them date quite far back. Town Hall was built in the 1800s and has gone through many iterations of upgrades and audits, but we continue to work upon that to make it more efficient. Solar panels were installed on the high school and Falmouth Memorial Library to produce renewable energy. And then we also have an 875 kilowatt landfill solar array in development. The panels are actually sitting there to be installed in the spring. So we couldn't be more excited to get that up and running. And that will produce enough energy to power about 70% of municipal operations. And just to step back for a minute, so I bucketed these here into buildings and energy use, transportation, community resilience, and waste reduction, which are kind of the four main buckets that we look at in climate action planning and kind of break our strategies between. But then for Falmouth, I also added the environment bullet because it's always been a priority in our community with a huge amount of open space and a real focus on our environment and ecological systems. So I think that's a priority for Falmouth as well. From a transportation perspective, the town has added 4 all-electric vehicles to the municipal fleet. 3 of those were at no cost, thanks to Efficiency Maine and Hyundai taking advantage of incentives there. So we have 3 free leases for 3 years, which no one could believe it when they heard it, but it was in fact true. And our police department is actually really engaged and eager to add EVs in the police fleet. So they got a Ford Mach-E electric vehicle last year. They also have 2 hybrid vehicles, and they installed 4 EV chargers for police use last year. So they're really committed to this. They want to set a new standard, and they want to be set an example that other police departments can look to. So that's really exciting. The town itself has also installed EV infrastructure at the library, at Town Hall, the schools, and we're looking to expand that some more. From a community resilience perspective, the things I listed here aren't exactly, they're not in the climate action plan. They're not things that happen because we said we need to do this from climate action, but they're things that promote resilience and are so important for a community for residents to have relationships with one another and support one another when there is an extreme weather event. So things like senior community programming, before and after school care. And then also we are a partner with window dressers, Cumberland and Falmouth partners on a build each year. And we were very excited to do one this past November. And so building those window inserts, I'm sure Sam will speak much more about to help people make their homes more efficient. From a waste reduction perspective, we have 3 community food waste bins in different locations available to our residents free of charge. And we also have commercial and resident recycling education programs and a lot of information out there to promote recycling and reuse in our community. And then lastly, environment. Falmouth has been committed to open space conservation for a very long time. We have over 1,800 acres of open space, and that's just municipal open space. There's also the Falmouth Land Trust and other open spaces as well. So, and 55 miles of trails. So we're highly committed to that. We have pesticide and fertilizer use regulations in education. So Falmouth passed an ordinance so focused on water health and water quality and resident health Health to have applicators report on pesticide and fertilizer usage. It also prohibits use of fertilizers during the winter months. And we're continuing to work with the Conservation Commission to tally those annual reports and better understand how those products are being used in Falmouth. And then there's a lot of focus on water quality management between Highland Lake, which is in Falmouth and Wyndham. And we're also working on a strategic watershed plan townwide. So that's a long list of things that we're already working on, but we're not done yet. So this is just a quick recap of what other plans are in existence. And I know there was another webinar in this series that specifically looked at me and won't wait, but we saw what's going on regionally at the state level and these carbon emission reduction goals that are being set by local municipalities. And so Falmouth decided it was time to update our own climate action plan. So a full plan and assessment hadn't been completed since 2010. And so it was time for us to renew that and do a new greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And Falmouth had also never completed a vulnerability assessment to get a better understanding of vulnerable infrastructure and residents in our community. And so we wanted to get that information as well. So the Greater Portland Council of Governments, what often called GPCOG, they offer a climate action plan municipal program. It's something that just came out last year that they began offering, and Falmouth jumped on the opportunity. Probably within a couple of months of them announcing the program, Falmouth decided to move forward with doing our own climate action plan. We were the first community to sign on with GPCOG on this. So we're really blazing the trail with them and designing what this program looks like and how we're using it in our community. So we're working with them on that. And we also, GPCOG secured some main DOT funds to help us support the cost of that, specifically the vulnerability assessment. So this will serve as a model for other small communities in the state, and we're excited to share this process and how it's going for us. So we passed a resolution to complete a climate action plan with GPCOG. So the plan includes a vulnerability assessment where we're talking both with department heads within and across the municipality to hear about what town infrastructure we're concerned about, everything from broadband to town landing, which is getting flooded now, even on sunny day flooding. And some roads and culverts, and just getting a really holistic perspective on where our town is from a vulnerability perspective. Then we're also upgrading our community-wide greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And we decided to support this process, we would develop and create a climate action planning committee, which is a resident committee that also has members on it from our Conservation Commission and our Recycling and Energy Committee to help really guide the plan development. That we didn't want to just feel like we were siloed as staff and GPCOG working on this. We wanted to make sure there was resident input and that we're checking in with residents who have experience in this. And so we're really excited. We just finally fully appointed that committee, and we'll be having our first meeting shortly. And then we're also doing community engagement. So we're actually doing our own climate talk series as well, and have had a lot of great speakers and are doing other things to engage with the community and get them involved in this process. So this plan will establish a new vision and prioritize our carbon reduction targets. So our old target of 2% annual decrease, we anticipate that will change and become a bit more in alignment with the state of Maine targets. And then at the end of the day, we'll have a climate action plan to achieve those carbon reduction targets with a roadmap. And so we anticipate this summer to have the plan completed and bring it to our town council for full review and feedback, and bring it to the community for review and feedback, and then hopefully start to implement anticipated actions. So it's not done yet, so I can't say for certain what we're going to be doing, but just based on what we're seeing out there. We'll certainly have more aggressive carbon reduction goals. We're really focusing on building out electric vehicle infrastructure. It seems like all of a sudden, a lot of people are talking about EVs and getting more comfortable with the concept, but the infrastructure needs to be there to support it. So that's a big goal for us. Nature-based coastal resiliency measures. So we're actually part of a group of communities, including Brunswick, that's working with GMRI on a coastal resiliency effort to test and work on some nature-based measures. Looking at just electrify everything. I stole that from Portland and South Portland. That's a campaign that they're running, but how do we transition away from fossil fuels and heat and cool our homes more with electric rather than oil and gas? And then looking at critical infrastructure updates of important updates around town from a wastewater perspective or access to the ocean or various places that we're going to need to update our infrastructure. So thank you so much. And I guess sounds like we'll do questions at the end, but let me know if you need anything else. Oh, Tim, you're on mute.
That was a great presentation. Yes, 2 years, I'm still getting it wrong. But Ashley, think about the opportunities, how citizens might encourage their towns to emulate. So you can just sort of stew on that one, and we'll have some other questions as well. I think, Sam, you are next up at bat. So I'm just tossing the ball to you.
All right, thank you, Tim. And thanks to CREA and BTLT and all of you for attending this evening. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. I think we are all here because we have empathy. Empathy for future generations, empathy for the natural world, empathy for those already being affected by climate change, especially the poor around the world and here at home. I think you probably agree that we have a moral obligation to do everything we can to prevent the climate disruption that's coming our way, but it all seems so overwhelming. Our empathy tells us to do something, but what, we wonder, as we fill our gas tanks and fire up our home heating system with fossil fuels. It's easy to feel complicit and caught in the web of an energy system so resistant to reform. Our own inaction can be guilt-producing, an emotion the fossil fuel industry has cleverly exploited. They want us to think we are to blame for the climate crisis, not their shameless lobbying and decades-long disinformation practices. But I think we all know now that they are complicit and that our lifestyle changes alone will not solve the climate crisis, nor will scattered local efforts to go green, as admirable as they are. I've put a lot of work into these local projects, solar at my Bath church, heat pumps and weatherization on peaks, and especially window inserts over the last 10 years. For a long time, I comfortably thought of these as a positive drop in the bucket. If there were millions of others around the world putting drops in the bucket too, I reasoned the climate problem would eventually get solved. I was wrong. Why? Because folks in politics and governments have not taken climate science seriously enough or tackled the problem soon enough. Strong leadership where it counts has largely been missing. And in the US, what to do about this crisis has been turned into a political football. I have no regrets about engaging in the local stuff, because at this point, and all of the above effort to mitigate climate change and prepare for the warming that's already baked in is entirely appropriate. But think about it. The United States currently has no effective overarching federal policy in place to regulate and to reduce the burning of fossil fuels. How could our political leadership have been so neglectful over the years? The sad reality has to be changed, and we as citizens in a democracy are the ones who will have to turn things around. It's not too late, but time is short. This is why I joined Citizens Climate Lobby, to learn how to use the 5 levers of political will to help us escape this political paralysis. CCL is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, grassroots advocacy organization of over 180,000 members focused on federal policies to address climate change. We don't just demand bold action. We spell out the actions we support with specifics. We know where our members of Congress stand and are doing all we can to influence progress in the right direction. We know we have to be flexible about legislation, but we keep our eye on the ball, the necessity that our country do its part to hold the worldwide temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. We are in it for the long haul. We are also a group of locals who have become friends through our shared work. Newcomers are always welcome at our meetings. So do what you can, when you can, for the climate. Put away your guilt for good. Join our Easy Monthly calling campaign and help us advocate for effective federal climate policy. You'll find info in the chat about how to be in touch. So now I'm going to shift gears and show you an insulating window insert. This is a small mock-up of what we build at our community builds. It's made of 1x2 pine. The larger ones have a cross piece in the middle to keep the frame from hourglassing. The whole thing is embedded in clear package tape around the perimeter, and then a weather stripping layer is added to the frame, which fits inside an existing window and just compresses into place. They're removable in the summer. And let me get my slides up and I'll show you a little more. Can you see that? Great. So, as you all know, windows are a blessing and a curse. They provide light and fresh air. They also result in heat loss and larger energy bills. How? Well, there's a diagram over there on the right that shows the many ways air can get in and get out of a window. And the guy sitting in his easy chair by the window there is probably thinking about all the money going out the window with that warm air. I stuck some testimonials in here at the beginning just to give you a sense of the enthusiasm we are encountering for our work. Yippee, a rewarding experience, a good way to meet interesting people, big difference in our comfort level. We didn't use as much fuel as we would have in the past. There's more up on the website. So let me tell you a little bit about nonprofit window dressers and the inexpensive solution that we offer people who can't afford to replace all their old windows. We are volunteers building insulating interior window inserts. To get them, you help us build them. Our inserts make your home more comfortable and save on heating costs. Since 2010, our participants in over 40 towns in Maine and now Vermont and coming in New Hampshire have built 48,753 inserts. We estimate that our inserts have prevented burning over 2.6 million gallons of heating oil. Last season, over 33% of our inserts went free to low-income participants, thanks to the generosity of people like you who donated for those inserts. I'd like to talk about this picture with the 2 thermometers, but I've got to keep going for a lack of time. So maybe we'll get a chance to come back to that. Our inserts double the insulating value of double pane windows. They're removable for warm weather. They reduce drafts, condensation, and street noise You know how water runs down your windows on a cold day? That doesn't happen when you have window inserts installed. They're custom measured and guaranteed to fit. We measure them, we come to your home, a team of 2 volunteers. They cost just an average of $42. And the cost depends on the size. Larger ones are more expensive, smaller ones are less. They save up to a gallon of heating oil, or its equivalent, for every square foot of window area. And of course, that depends a lot on the existing window that's behind them. And they're fun to make. And you can help assemble our inserts. You can lend a hand at our Brunswick community build, or you can cook for our volunteers. We serve lunch between the morning and the afternoon shifts. We also schedule evening shifts so that anybody who's getting the window inserts has no excuses not to help out with the build. The number of 4-hour shifts that you owe depends on how many inserts you are getting. Usually it's a shift or 2. Or you can just volunteer for fun. And we have a lot of people who come in. We have high schoolers, middle schoolers, a lot of seniors come in to help build the inserts, even though they're not getting them, just because it's a nice thing to do for the community. You can help us get the word out too. You can tell your friends and neighbors in Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire about us. You can share our website and like our Facebook page. The website is in the chat. You can join our local leadership team. I'm one of the 5 or 6 people in that group, and we're looking for a few more. So if you'd like to help us plan the week coming up this, probably in November, our week will be at that time. So we are a seasonal operation. We don't build window inserts all year long. People are really interested in the fall, but not so much in the other seasons. So this is the time of year when we start to plan for next season. We recruit new communities. We provide training to measurers and coordinators, local coordinators, and we order our materials. And then in the summer and the fall, when it starts to cool off, we recruit customers and measure for inserts by going to their home. We had a whole protocol for COVID in place this year, and we didn't build as many inserts because of that, but we kept things safe and we were successful in that. And then we build the inserts in local communities. There were 37 this year, a few canceled because of the COVID, but usually it's over 40 communities in Maine and Vermont. The pictures you're seeing in this slide on the left, that one was taken in Lewiston, where we had a build for mostly low-income people. And on the right, you see 2 volunteers at Allagash Brewing Company, where we had a community build a couple of years ago, and they're putting the first layer of film on one side of the insert, then it will go back and get some more white tape and get the other side covered. We try to be sort of the magic in the back room. We try to make our workshops easy. I'm talking about the mother organization here, Window Dressers. We provide our community build leadership teams all of the following: laser measuring devices with which to measure the landing space into which the insert will go, an invoicing system. We ask people to pay when we come to their homes if they can. An invoicing system, let's see, measuring and pricing software, a website full of information, windowdressers.org, supplies, tools, jigs, and materials, willing and enthusiastic support from old guys like me who have time to go around and help inexperienced people at new community builds get their feet on the ground. Don't worry about the bullets. This is really a slide for new communities who were thinking of taking one of these builds on, but I just wanted to show the pictures. The fellow in the red shirt is putting white tape using a jig on the perimeter of the insert. To the right of him, that's the wrapping table where 2 people work opposite each other, getting the film initially placed onto the insert. I don't have a picture of us putting the frames together, but that's the first thing we do. In the lower left, that fellow is shrinking the plastic. We get most of the wrinkles out at the wrapping table. And then the lower right, they're putting the clear package tape on the perimeter using a tool that probably is hidden by our pictures, but it's a tape dispenser that rides along the edge of the window and makes it really easy to do. So as I said earlier, to sign up for inserts, you can visit our website, and then you get assigned to a community build in your area. If you are interested in setting up a build in your town, you don't have to. If you're in Brunswick, we already have been doing this in Brunswick for 5 or 6 years. I think you can contact our executive director, Laura Seaton, and to learn more about what we are doing, or if you want to join the Brunswick leadership team, you can give me a call. My phone number is at the bottom of the screen. So thank you very, very much for your attention. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Sam. Very informative with lots of links. And everybody, if you didn't focus on it earlier, we will be distributing a recording of this and a summary of a lot of these links. So you'll get that as a follow-up email. Sam, one quick question, which I think you can answer probably in 2 words. How long do the inserts last?
One of our founders put them in a big wall of glass on his south wall, which is not normally where we suggest putting inserts. And they lasted for 10 years, even in spite of the UV light. And when the plastic finally fails, or a cactus or a cat scratches, you bring them back and we recover them at a community build for $15.
That's great. It's great. Reuse. I love it. Okay, thank you. Questions are coming in. I'm just a reminder to everybody, as the questions occur to you, put them in the Q&A. And with that, Lily, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen just a moment. All righty. Is everyone able to see that? Can someone give me a verbal
It has
yes?
not come up yet.
Okay, hold on just a moment. Sorry about this.
There we go. It's starting to happen. We see a big blue desktop.
What about now?
Now we have residential offerings efficiency Maine. And
Okay,
as just before you
wonderful.
start, Lily, I will quickly, I should have said this earlier. Efficiency Maine has tons of programs. Lily's going to be talking about a subset of those programs, but we do encourage you to explore the website because there is a lot of good work that they make possible. So there you go, Lily. You don't have to cover everything.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks, Tim, for the introduction, and thanks to CREA and BTLT for inviting my colleague Andy and me to talk about Efficiency Maine's residential offerings and how they can help you all do something. All right, before jumping in, I want to provide some background information on Efficiency Maine. Efficiency Maine runs the state's energy efficiency and renewable energy programs. We do this by providing incentives, mostly in the form of rebates, loans, technical information, and we have an extensive registry of vendors. We're funded by several sources, including electric and natural gas ratepayers, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, ISO New England Grid, grants, and other sources. We have a board of trustees. They're appointed by the governor and appointed by the legislature. All right, now we can jump in. This evening, I will discuss 3 major topics. 1, incentives, 2, loans, and 3, tools that can help you do something. All right, do you experience any cold drafts or leaky windows at home? Well, if so, Efficiency Maine has insulation incentives that can help you make your home feel more comfortable. And as you can see here where my cursor is, Efficiency Maine offers incentives up to $5,500 for air sealing and insulation. And for those who are income qualified, we offer $9,600. Have no fear, you don't need to memorize these numbers. You just need to know that Efficiency Maine has insulation incentives that can help make your home more comfortable. We also have incentives for heat pumps. You can receive up to $1,200 for heat pumps and double that for those who are income qualified. Last year, we rebated over 25,000 heat pumps. Heat pumps are great for not only heating your home, but also your domestic hot water. Tens of thousands of Mainers own heat pump water heaters. They're popular because they produce lots of hot water. They can save over $3,500 over their 10-year life, and they help to dehumidify. Right now, you can head to Granite Group in Lewiston and get a heat pump water heater for only $479. In comparison, they cost $1,700 at Lowe's. Efficiency Maine also has incentives for electric vehicles. And again, as you can see here by my cursor, you can receive up to $2,000 for an EV. And for those who are income qualified, you can receive up to $5,500. Again, you don't need to memorize the numbers. You just need to know that Efficiency Maine has incentives for EVs. All right, I promised I would discuss three major topics: incentives, loans, and tools. I'm now going to shift to talking about loans. Efficiency Maine offers home energy loans for rebate eligible projects up to $15,000. For example, you could have a $10,000 installation job, get a loan, and pay only $106 a month. Now I'm going to switch topics a bit. I'm going to talk about tax credits. In addition to Efficiency Maine's loans, there are federal tax credits for EVs, solar, geothermal, etc. An important note is that Efficiency Maine does not administer tax credits. We mostly do incentives in the form of rebate checks. Okay, I've covered incentives and loans. I'm now going to talk about the third topic, tools. Alrighty, if you can remember only one thing from this presentation, it is this. It is a residential registered vendor locator. It is a wonderful online tool that can help you find an independent, certified, and insured vendor in your area. You can go to efficiencymaine.com and you can select the service you're looking for example, insulation, heat pump water heaters, EVs, whatever you want. You enter your zip code and you push search. The registered vendor locator will automatically sort by the number of rebated projects that vendor has completed. Since there are over 700 vendors, we have a list of suggested questions that you can ask the vendors. To find the best fit, we recommend at least talking to 3 different vendors. Again, if you remember anything from this presentation, it is this. It is a residential registered vendor locator. All right, now you can stop listening. Just kidding. Another wonderful tool is a home efficiency calculator. It helps you compare your home's energy use to a typical weatherized home. For example, the higher the percentage, the greater the opportunity for energy efficiency. We also have the home heating cost calculator, and it helps you compare various heating sources. As you can see here where my pointer is, heat pumps are one of the cheapest ways to heat your home. Oil is roughly 2 times the cost of heat pumps, and propane is roughly 3 times the cost of heat pumps. People are usually surprised to learn that propane is actually one of the most expensive ways to heat your home. At efficiencymaine.com, we also have tons of information about insulation. You can find information about incentives, eligibility, case studies, FAQs, etc. We have a similar webpage dedicated to information on heat pumps. We have information including installation considerations, heat pump user tips, testimonials, etc. For example, here's a heat pump testimonial from someone in your community. Neil Gabler from Topsham said, "I love this thing. From beginning to end, I was really pleased. First with the installation process, which was quick and efficient, and also with the unit itself, which keeps the room really nice and warm. We're also happy with the cost. We got a rebate for the installation of it, which helped to convince us to get it done. I would recommend this to everyone. Within the last 12 weeks, 91% of customers out of 661 surveyed ranked their overall experience a 9 out of 10. And also at efficiencymain.com, you can find a charging station locator. You can use this tool to help you plan your route for your next destination. Okay, I just threw a lot of information and resources at you, but have no fear. You can view, download, and print all these resources at efficiencymain.com. You can also call us at our call center and have them sent to you for free. So if you're hosting any events and you want brochures, we would be happy to equip you with as many brochures as you like for free. Yes, absolutely for free. All right, are you guys feeling ready to do something? Well, you can get started at efficiencymain.com, or you can call us at 866-376-2463. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll pass the mic back to Tim.
Thank you, Lily. There was a lot of stuff coming at us in there. The quiz is, what is the one thing you have to remember? We should probably put that up as a poll question, but I think if I'm remembering right, the one thing is to go to that site where you can look up the contractors, depending on what you want or what you need. Everything is all at one place.
Bingo, you got it.
Like
Nice job.
Good deal. So that's great. We have plenty of time now for some questions. Thank you, presenters, for being so swift and concise. Let me sort of jump in a little bit with one on a topic that really didn't get picked up, that nobody was really talking about because it's such an old technology for us. But somebody was asking, because I guess there are federal rebates or tax incentives for certain wood stoves. I don't know if that's still in place. And the question basically was, are those considered clean sources? I don't know if any of you have an informed view on that. And if so, volunteer. I am not seeing any takers on that question. I will give Andy, go ahead.
I'll stay away from the controversial stuff and just say that on efficiencymain.com, where I'm looking right now, we do list wood and pellet stoves do have a federal tax credit available for 26% of the cost with no cap. So that is available, and that's on efficiencymain.com.
There you go. I do know that there has been questions over the years about the cleanliness of, the clean air implications, obviously. I will say, having a wood stove myself and having traded out a wood stove that I would be embarrassed to own today in terms of its cleanliness, the cleanliness of wood stoves now has been greatly improved, which is not to say I would breathe the smoke, but they're definitely, you'd want to get rid of the old ones and invest in something new. Let me take it back to the top for some of the questions, and this really could be for everybody to react to. The questioner is really asking, because this is a global crisis, a planetary emergency, and we're sort of doing this, balancing of individual action, maybe it's collective versus, big, massive policy questions globally or whatever, and trying to hit the sweet spot in that. And the question really was, do we think that all these local actions can make a significant difference if large numbers of people engage in them? What's our sense of that? I put that out there to anybody, any of the panelists.
I'll take a shot at it, Tim. There's a philosophical discussion we could have all day and night on that. I'm going to sidestep that. I would ask just the other way. Why wouldn't we do everything that we can? The rebates that Efficiency Main offer really make it super easy to do something. And even if that's not enough, it beats nothing. And so I know for me, I always feel empowered when I can take a step for $1.97, literally, go down to the local Walmart and get 4 LED light bulbs and screw them in. It's not going to save the planet, but it's something. And with Efficiency Main broad range of rebates, you can just do whatever steps you're ready for. If you want to switch to heat pumps, you can. If you're not ready for that, you can change your clothes washer. We'll give you $50 for a clothes washer if it's efficient. So I kind of don't like the question about is it enough? It beats nothing. It's empowering, and the stuff for energy efficiency ends up paying for itself. So you don't. And Lily mentioned we have not just rebates but loans, so we can help you pay for it. We can take away the financial objection, and we can help you find contracts. We give you information. So I don't know if it's enough, but it beats nothing, and we can help you start.
Yeah. Sam, I saw you put your finger up.
Yeah, I saw a sobering number recently that Maine is only responsible for something like 3.2% of the nation's greenhouse gas emissions. So the answer that I've given for myself is that I want to make sure that I try to make sure that for every hour or so I put in on something local, I also put in that time lobbying Congress or doing something related to the national problem that cries out for such a strong solution.
Anybody else? I would just sort of throw in an observation. One is, we, and I think I can safely say everybody on this call is probably here in this country, our energy consumption and probably greenhouse gas emissions are many, many, many multiples of people who are living in developing countries. So any steps that we take are having massive impacts compared to the small steps, a comparable small step that somebody would be taking in some of these other countries. So I think in that sense, I'm getting into Andy's philosophical side there. I think it's important. The other observation is, having just installed 4 heat pumps over the last couple of years, go pandemic, it equipped me to speak more in a more informed way to my representatives, and from direct experience. And I think our impact is always more when we speak from that direct experience. It's just, you got some credibility. So I think it's all of the above. Do something local, encourage neighbors, and call your representative and yell at them. Or maybe don't yell at them, but.
Tim, can I just add one thing? Because
of course,
our planning team talked about this a lot. And I think one of the things that we came to is, when people are doing things locally in their own lives, it just keeps the issue in their minds and keeps them thinking about it. And it starts to snowball. And as you said, you can speak more effectively with other people about, whether, your weatherization efforts, your heat pump, your EV, whatever it is, or if you're working at the municipal level to start a climate plan, you can start, it comes up in conversation. So that's just another thought on that topic.
That's great. Yeah, it's true. Ashley, a question for you. What does a community-wide greenhouse gas emission inventory look like? How does that actually get measured?
Yeah, so it's a lot of data collection. So I didn't mention, but we are working with a Resilience Corps fellow as part of our climate action planning process. And he has been our key person collecting all of the energy data for Falmouth. So community-wide, how much natural gas is used, how much electricity, looking at transportation models to understand fuel usage within the town, even looking at marine vessels. We're just gathering as much data as we can around the greenhouse gas, the fuel usage, and then calculating our greenhouse gas emissions using that data. And then we can set our reduction targets from there once we have a better understanding of what our emissions are.
Thank you. I have a little cough tonight, so I keep turning myself off and have to remember to turn myself back on. For the Efficiency Maine folks, which programs, excuse me, are people most interested in? What are the most popular programs? Sounded like heat pumps was going gangbusters, but are there other really popular programs?
Yeah, you're right. As Lily mentioned, about every 6 minutes, a house switches from oil or propane over to heat pumps. It's unprecedented, so it's very, very popular. Heat pump water heaters, I know Sam has had one installed. Heat pump water heaters, Lily mentioned, we rebated 10,000 of them last year. 1 out of every 10 heat pump water heaters in the United States of America comes to Maine. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
And the satisfaction levels are so high, it sounds like someone's faking.
I'm next.
Good, good. Don't walk, Tim.
Don't
Run,
walk.
run. As far as LED light bulbs, we're on track to rebate 1.9 million light bulbs just this year in Maine, making Maine one of the fastest to adopt efficient lighting in the country. And we've been at that rate or higher in the past. So we are probably the #1 state in the country. And I don't know if Lily mentioned it, but on efficiencymaine.com, there is a best LED bulb prices in Maine list, which is updated every 2 weeks. You can find those $1 bulbs, and we have a lot of 50-cent LED bulbs. So those would be, I'm sorry, and weatherization. Thanks to COVID and high oil prices, weatherization has become very, very popular right now. And I'm laughing because Lily did a survey of the contractors, the weatherization contractors in Maine, and they've got very long backlogs. So they are hiring and adding crews and trying to ramp up their capacity. So those would be the most popular ones. Heat
Yeah,
pumps, heat pump water heaters, LEDs, and weatherization.
Great to hear. Sam, did you have your finger up there a minute ago?
Yeah, but you came first.
Got covered.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say that on Peaks Island, when I lived there, we started with insulating window inserts, not for any particular reason. That was sort of the gateway drug. But we then found a contractor who was willing to come out to the island and do a lot of work. It's difficult on an island because you've got to persuade a contractor to take the ferry out. It's not cost effective for people. And the weatherization program, I think that's what you were calling it, Andy. We used to call it the air sealing program, with a blower door test, was a super way for people to get a quick result and also learn more about the other programs that Efficiency Maine offers. And that was what got us to 113 homes weatherized with that program. Was just this sort of building one thing on another. So I'm a big fan of Efficiency Maine.
Great. I have a question here that came up that is, it's occurred to me in the past, especially when I'm thinking about getting a new car. You get a new car, you get the latest technology, it's cleaner, probably higher mileage, but it's a new car and it costs a lot of money and energy to make the car. So what's the trade-off between, how long should you keep your old car basically before jumping to the latest and greatest? I mean, they require a lot of energy. Is it worth it to trade in the old car for a new EV? Or when is it worth it might be a way to answer that one. I don't know if Efficiency Maine, Andy or Lily, has looked at that question. If you look at of course you don't do, that's a federal rebate program probably.
Oh, no, as Lily explained, Efficiency Maine is offering thousands of dollars of rebates.
Oh, okay, that's
For
right.
individuals, she mentioned $1,000 for a plug-in electric and $2,000 for a full battery electric vehicle.
Yeah.
But I don't have a sound answer to offer on that as to when. But if I can dodge that and say, when you're buying a new car, if I can dodge that question,
Right.
going electric can make an awful lot of sense. Electric vehicles right now, most of them over 100 miles per gallon equivalent. The cars available now, electric vehicles can be over 130 miles per gallon equivalent. It's just kind of the end of the discussion.
Right.
If you want to find out, if you are planning to buy a car and you want to do right by the planet. It's
That's-
pretty
that's
clear.
the way to go.
Electric vehicles is the way to go.
There's a question here that I'm just going to read because I don't know enough about it to enhance it at all. But the question is there any legislation underway in response to the quote, future grid, close quote, project? Anybody aware of legislation? I mean,
Do you think this is state or national? We don't know.
I don't, I mean, no, I'm resisting male answer syndrome here. I really don't know.
I'm not aware of any. There may be something out there.
I do know there's a constant flow of legislation on all of these topics, and there's a lot coming up in the legislature this year. Well, let's move on then. There's another question here that you might take a first crack at. It's bravo for Falmouth being able to purchase EVs and installing charging stations. How can we incentivize smaller towns with less tax base, maybe less citizen interest, to join in? Is this a state or a federal responsibility with a resulting local effect, or is there something we can do ourselves?
Yeah, so I will say that even small towns can take advantage of the rebates that Efficiency Maine is offering to get really low cost electric vehicles to add to your fleet. And Efficiency Maine also offers rebates on charging infrastructure as well. And as they're improving various corridors throughout Maine, new rebate programs become available with higher incentive amounts. So if you're along one of those specific corridors, like right now they're working on a coastal route in Mount Desert Island, which is where I'm from. So now I have a nice corridor to get to visit my parents. Yeah, there's definitely incentives out there. So even if you don't have a large capital budget for your municipality, you can get EVs at a relatively low cost at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. There was a question here about somebody who has purchased an EV wondering about suggestions for installing home EV chargers. Are some of the Efficiency Maine rebates available for installing home chargers?
We don't have rebates for home chargers, but we've got some fabulous information on efficiencymaine.com to help people who are looking to put in a charge. So very good advice. So I'd recommend going to efficiencymaine.com and finding that information.
Okay.
Sam's got his hand up.
Sam, sorry, I was covered.
No problem.
Your little screen there.
Yeah, I've done a little research. We don't own an EV yet, but we have room on our electric panel for another 240 volt outlet. And if you get an electrician to run a line to your garage, I believe many of the vehicles are equipped to do the charging. You just have to buy the cord that plugs into that outlet and pay for the outlet and the running the line from the breaker panel. And I was told by an electrician who did the solar work at our church, who does those installations, that you can get it done for around $700, depending on the length of the run.
I'll also add, as a new EV owner, that ours came with a plug that you can just plug into a regular outlet in your garage. So it's the slowest charging method, but it comes with the car and it's easy. But so you might want to upgrade to a faster charger. But for us, it's been working, as we just get the charge we need overnight and we're ready to go the next morning.
Great. Here's a question, Sam. This would be for you, somebody who's obviously thinking about these window inserts. It's their second question on window inserts. What's the impact on the clarity or the transparency when you look out the window of these inserts?
Well, there is a slight impact. They're not as clear as glass. I guess the question I ask is, it depends a little on what you like to look out at. winter can be gray and dreary in Maine. And we don't pay a lot of attention looking out our windows, except at the bird feeder, where we don't have an insert. Many customers that, or participants, I should call them, that get involved with us don't buy inserts for the whole home. They concentrate on skylights, basement inserts, basement windows, which are often old and sometimes only single pane of glass. If you can find the landing space, that's a perfect place to put an insert. And then the north and west sides of the house that get the winter winds. Depends
Yeah.
on the condition of your windows a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Lily or Andy, can you just quickly review how Efficiency Maine is funded? Again, I know there was a quick bullet on that one, but could you review that? There was somebody was wondering where the money comes from.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to take that question. So Efficiency Maine is funded by several sources. They include electric and natural gas ratepayers. So anybody who pays in for electric or natural gas. For example, I myself am a ratepayer. I get my natural gas through Unitil, so I pay a little percentage to energy efficiency measures. We're also funded by the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, the ISO New England Grid, grants, and other sources. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. They'll pop back in if they're looking for more detail. And my guess is on the Efficiency Maine website, there probably is a quite thorough explanation of the funding sources. There's a question here related to the sort of when do you trade in your old car? But it's more, it had whether or not there are calculators out there, and they're really asking about when's it worth trading in a functional electric water heater for electric hot water. I suppose it could be any hot water heater, but any electric hot water heater for a new heat pump hot water heater. Is there any sense for that? I guess that's an Efficiency Maine question.
Yes, Lily showed the calculator on our website. And if you take a look, it depends how much water you use, so you can adjust it on the calculator. But the default, I'm looking at it right now on our website, shows the annual cost of $200 a year for a heat pump water heater and $742 a year for electric tank. So that's $542. You heard Lily say you could buy a heat pump water heater at Granite Group for $479. So yesterday was the best day. And if you missed yesterday, it'd be tomorrow would be the best time to replace electric water heater.
Thank you. So here's a sort of a loaded question here. I'm just going to read it out. Is the purchase of CMP and creation of a citizen-owned utility a good thing? How will it help the transition to an electric economy? So I'm going to take Andy off the spot on this one for the moment. But I just, this is a topic which is going to be very much in the public eye over the next year. And I'm just wondering if any of you have any thoughts on this question. You're so bashful.
I don't think I'm ready to comment on whether that's the best next step or not, but I do just want to call out that Competitive Energy Services, who's located in Portland, did a really thorough study on how the grid needs to evolve to support the electrify everything strategy and how we need to grow renewable energy and how do we actually meet these goals. So I would definitely suggest someone who is interested in that to look into that study. It's by Rich Silkman from Competitive Energy Services, and it definitely has a lot of great information on how the grid needs to change and evolve and to support our transition away from fossil fuels.
Maybe we can get something into the follow-up email for maybe a link to that study. Be a great thing to do. Thank you. I am looking at the questions. We've covered many of them. Am I missing Lee or Caroline? Are there?
There's two more at the bottom. One is asking, I don't think this has been addressed, whether the window dressers, window inserts are more insulating than glass window inserts.
I think they're meant to be complements to a glass window, but Sam, that's your question.
In terms of insulating value, I think that they do pretty much the same thing. It's the dead air spaces that are created between the films of plastic and also between the existing window and the insert that make them so efficient. And then if the window is old and there are leaks around the frame, it takes care of many of those problems too. So I think it's pretty close, if not identical.
And then there was one more asking if Efficiency Maine is planning to offer support for household electric storage units. So basically batteries, I assume, to help homeowners get off the grid.
That's a great question. And I don't know, we don't have any public plans to offer a rebate. It's a good question though.
Oh, sorry.
Sam, go ahead. You had a
Different-
add on to that.
Different subject, so.
Oh,
finish
okay.
this one.
Sorry, Caroline.
There's one more question. Someone thanks Andy for the answer about the water heater replacement and asks, what about the total cost, not just your monthly utility bill saving, but the environmental cost of building, transporting, and installing the new heater and disposing of the old one?
Yeah, total life cycle impact. I don't know. What we have focused on is what we call replace on burnout. If you're going to buy a water heater, then buy a heat pump water heater. So the issue of disposing of the old one is not an issue because it's going to be discarded regardless or recycled regardless. As far as on the life cycle analysis, what is the total carbon footprint of manufacturing a new one to replace one that's working that you would retire early and recycle? I don't know the answer to that question. It's a fair question.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the question about cars. You know,
A
you
little
have that
difference with
same life
cars.
cycle one.
A little different with cars because typically you wouldn't sell a used water heater. That would be the end of its life, whereas a used car, you typically would. So it actually pushes a big
Yeah.
pipeline. It pushes one that was going to break down anyway. So it doesn't actually add more cars. It just changes the mix of, are they going to be efficient cars or inefficient cars?
Yeah.
But with water heaters, a fair question. If you've got 5 years left life of your water heater, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. The financial impact, we have that on our efficiencymaine.com calculator, but I don't know about the total life cycle analysis. Fair question.
Tim, could I share the results to our first poll question just for?
Yeah,
just
sure. Sure.
Because I think we've covered, so I just have to say that it tells you something about our audience that 20% of people are talking incessantly about.
Thank
So,
you to all of these people, occasionally, often, and especially the incessantly. Thank you for what you're doing.
Sam.
Yeah, several times this evening, people have suggested that we call our legislators, and I just wanted to say another word about that. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly have had the experience of having that suggested to me and not really knowing what to say and how to go about it. So the monthly calling campaign that we have suggests a messaging that's appropriate to that instant in time and down in Washington, D.C., but it also gives you the flexibility to add anything you want. The other thing I wanted to say about it is that when we lobby, I think that's another dirty word in our vocabulary. Nobody thinks of lobbying as being a very reputable thing to do anymore, but we're citizen lobbyists. And when we go, we don't go alone. We go either onto a Zoom or into a congressional office if we don't have the COVID lingering around. We all have roles. We have, a timekeeper or a recorder, a thanker, somebody who knows something good that legislator did, no matter what it was, so we can start on a positive note. We have somebody who watches for body language. We have an asker, the all-important ask that you make, and we have secondary asks lined up. So it's a fascinating process and a team effort that makes lobbying very interesting. But it's not by any means the only thing that we do. We're more involved locally as well in building support for sensible legislation on climate. I just wanted to add that.
No, that's a
Thank
good,
you.
that's a good demystifying explanation. I'll add that in a former life, I worked at the state legislature for about 10 years. And I think this is still the case. Local legislators here in Maine, if they get a dozen phone calls on an issue, it's a lot of phone calls or emails. And it's easy to do. The Maine legislature is very accessible. And I'd encourage you to make your views known to them. It actually does make a significant difference, but they really do pay attention to it. Don't use form emails, write your own, modify it, because that does kind of get swept away. But if a legislator gets, a dozen phone calls, they're paying attention, especially from their own constituents. There's a suggestion just to lift it up in the chat as well. For those of you living in Topsham, there is a Topsham Energy Committee that is working on a lot of great projects here right in town. I'm sitting in Topsham myself right now. So if you are in Topsham, there are some great channels to get engaged right there.
Hey, Tim, I just wanted to let people know that I added in the chat the state's list of who your state rep and state legislator are. So if you're not sure who to direct that phone call or letter to, you can find it all there, as well as their contact information.
That's great. Thank you. So I'm just scanning down through here, seeing if there is one more question here about, can you tell us about a business and a community or other organizations that have used an Efficiency Maine program? In other words, not individuals, but sort of organizations, governmental or business.
Yes, on efficiencymaine.com, there is a whole page on case studies. And so they're municipal, there's R&O wastewater treatment plant, there's Unity Weatherization Project, there's Alfred Town Hall. For businesses, it's a whole bunch. Jasper, Wyman and Son case study, the Blueberry folks, what they did with Efficiency Maine grants. St. Mary's Combined Heat and Power case study, and Oxford Networks case study. All are on efficiencymaine.com.
That's great. That's great, because you get some significant impact when you work in those sectors. Sam.
This is connected. One of our board members at Wind Addresses, Sharon Klein, who is a professor at the University of Maine in Orono, is very interested in linking up town energy committees. Energy committees in other states like Vermont, where we function, are big time, really going operations, and they haven't really gotten such a start around Maine, and she's looking to get something going. So if anybody on this call is interested, get in touch with me and I can put you in touch with Sharon.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So I think we're closing in on the end here. I do want to say we give people homework every week. So I guess the panelists get to dodge this because they won't be back next week, unless you really want to. But the homework we have for folks this week is to there's three things. Tell someone else about something you learned on today's talk, spread the word. Explore the Efficiency Maine website to see all the different things that Efficiency Maine makes possible. And even if you won't be using a program or information now, pass the word along to somebody who is telling you about their latest remodeling project or whatever appliance broke down. There's ways to save money and do good at the same time. And most important, learn what your own town or community is doing to adapt for climate change. So, if you want to try to start some work yourself along the lines that Ashley has been working on in Falmouth, or you want to get involved in that, learn what your town is doing and see what you can do to prod that whole effort. That's the homework. There will not be a quiz. We'd love to have you all back next week, February 3rd. The next one is subtraction is action, and it actually links to this one. We're really talking about energy efficiency in most of the sectors we were talking about today, right here. Next week, we'll be talking about how we can do more with less. Just don't use the energy in the first place in some ways. So we got some interesting people lined up to do that, to talk about that. I hope you'll all come back. And I guess I'll just say again, thank you so much to our 4 panelists. We really appreciate dinner time volunteer work here. I hope you get something before, or you're going to get something good afterwards. But we really appreciate the good presentations and the amazing information, all of which has been recorded, and we will be sharing it back out to all participants, basically everybody who registered as well. So thank you all very much. Lee, Caroline, any final comments?
No, just a big thank you to our presenters and also to you, Tim. And we'll send out the follow-up email probably tomorrow with links to sign up for next week's program and all of the great resources that were referred to tonight. And an evaluation form. So
Yes.
give us some feedback.
Thanks to you all. It's always energizing to get together with like-minded people, and this is a problem we can do something about.
Yeah.
Do something.
We got the tools. You just got to get up out of your chair. I almost said something a little ruder, and do something.
Do something.
Thank you all. Have
Thanks,
a great
everyone.
evening.
Thank you.
Tim.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.